So apparently there is a part 3 of this corporal punishment segment, if you will. Here's a thought, and I think Patrick started touching on this last time, but if you don't use reasonable force in training a child to not rebel against your will, then those authorities that lie outside of your home certainly will use whatever force is necessary. So understand this. You may think you're being a sweetheart of a parent by never spanking your child and never causing them all the pain and anguish that you had if you were in fact abused as a child. But at the end of the day, if that child does not learn that stupid types of things cause very unhappy consequences, then they're going to step out into the world. And for instance, a police officer might say, drop that item, be that a gun, be that a ball bat, be whatever it might be, drop that item. And when they decide, hey, I don't have to drop that, hey, I do whatever I want to do, I've always done whatever I wanted to do, then they wind up with a couple of 40 cals in their chest, and you're going to be whining and crying and saying, those terribly mean cops, they shot my innocent boy that never did anything, wrong or whatever. Well, here's the thing. You were a very rotten parent, and that poor kid didn't have a fighting chance, and they felt pain from rebellion against authority after they got outside of your immediate jurisdiction. And that's pretty unfair. Quite a lot of examples like that we could give.
Well, I can't think of an example right off the top of my head, but what did occur to me is that you're talking about the consequences when they're getting old enough to be out on their own. And I will say this, that, one of the alternatives, supposedly, of spanking, corporal punishment, is, reason with the child. I will tell you something here. For reasoning to work, the child has to be relatively old. I'm not sure you can reason with a 2 or a 3-year-old. Maybe a 3 or a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old. But I'll tell you what, if you waited till then to start training them, you're way too late. They needed that kind of understanding of, actually, should I say this? They needed to understand the consequences of doing something stupid when, I guess not everybody nurses anymore, but when they bit the nipple, they should have had some little indication that that wasn't the thing to do. A little something, a little tiny swat. And at that age, that's the best reasoning they understand of, oh, ouch, I'm not going to do that anymore. Whatever made that ouch, I'm going to stop. Okay, I'm being slightly facetious here, but you can see where you could be helping your child when they're younger than they can be reasoned with.
Well, so you start early, and that's why God is so merciful. If you start training a child from the time they're born, then none of these force things that we speak of have to be terribly forceful at all, because you've got a very malleable soul in your infant and in your toddler. And if they've learned, so that it's like on autopilot, they've learned since they were not able to remember anymore. Interesting thought, right? They can't even remember this stuff, but they already learned that you don't rebel against mother, you don't rebel against daddy, you don't even rebel against authority figures besides mother and daddy. Start, though, with mother and daddy. And interestingly, so by the time they're 5, 6, 7 years old, they're already compliant, sweet, loving, wonderful little citizens that everybody loves. This is as opposed to the child who was never taught to honor your father and mother. First commandment with promise. They got to learn how to honor. See,
and the promise is that it will be well with you.
Yeah, you might even have a long life, right? So in my mind, if you don't teach a child that there are serious ramifications to rebellion and disobedience, then where's the honor come from? Because they don't understand. They're like, hey, I got by with it, so what's the big deal? But if you spank them, again, you don't beat them, you don't abuse them, you just let them know, hey, a little bit of pain goes a long way. So they understand, boom, that didn't feel good. So now they want to give respect to, or they want to honor the training, the wishes, the will of the parent. And so a little goes so far when they're little. And as Patrick already beat me to, you wait till they're, 14, it ain't going to work so good. Because now it would take a lot of force to drive that thought or that principle home in their heart, whereas it would have been just a swat when they were little. Now it's going to be all kinds of stuff if you can in fact do it. But really you're supposed to train up a child in the way that he should go, not a teenager or an adult of some kind.